All right, it is 1 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone in chilly, blizzardous Chicago today. Welcome to MAP's holiday call. Stop talking. 10 phrases to eliminate right now. I'm so glad you're here. And as you're all arriving, go ahead and take a moment and update your name and your location in your Zoom. Go ahead and rename yourself. Put your name and location in the Zoom. And after all, you do want to get referrals from people who are learning based like you, don't you? So go ahead and as you enter, do that. And then after you update your name and rename yourself, go ahead and put that same information in our chat box. Let everybody know who you're from. Like Rhonda, you kicked us off there from warm Beverly Hills. We've got Maribel, we've got Alex, Leslie. Oh my gosh, we've got Mia in the Philippines. Georgia, everyone. Oh my gosh. So many people here. I'm so excited you're here. And as people are getting here, we're going to continue to populate that. So remember, if you are just getting here from Mazatlan, rub it in. Sunny Mazatlan. I'm pretty sure it's warm there too. And then we've got Rochester Hills, Michigan. Jonathan, you're on the opposite side of that, right? So welcome everyone again to Stop Talking. 10 phrases to eliminate right now. I am excited to be here with you today. And the fact that you are here tells me that you know that the words you use, well, they're pretty important. If you didn't believe that, well, you wouldn't be here right now today. You're investing in yourself. And frankly, I'm excited to work with you in an area that is truly a passion of mine, powerful language. Now, during our time today, we're going to focus on common words and phrases and thoughts that we all use that unconsciously, they take our power away. Now, before we get started, Lisa, I see you have your hand up. Is that on purpose? Do you have a question? Lisa McEwen? Nope. So let's go ahead and lower that hand. All right, perfect. There is going to be some time during this call where we're going to get interactive and that I'm going to ask for certain participation. But for the most part, I'm going to be sharing lots of great information with you. So let's get started. My name is Kara Moll, and I've been a MAPS performance coach for almost 8 years. Well, actually, I just hit my 8-year anniversary, so going on 9 years now. I'm a master practitioner of what's known as neuro-linguistic programming. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. I'm an IPEC certified energy leadership coach. I'm certified in EQ, which is an emotional intelligence, and I'm a head coach within the MAPS coaching community. And recently, I stepped back into one of my favorite roles of all times. I'm a bold coach again. So I've had the honor and privilege of teaching a little class called The Language of Sales for almost 5 years. And I continue to use and build upon that all the time. Those concepts, I use them on a daily basis. And because I know the words that we use are important. Now, just by a show of the box, put an I am in the box. How many of you are feeling a shift in the market right now? Go ahead and put an I am in the box if you are. Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to see a whole slew of I ams, right? And is that causing you to change the way you're doing business? Of course it is. Everybody nod their head. Of course it is. And I'm sure you'll agree that mindset, as we go through this shift, we're not entering the shift anymore. We're in the shift. Mindset is more important than ever. And the words we use, well, quite frankly, they're connected to that mindset. They are. So what we're going to talk about today is based on NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. N, the neuro, all about what we think. L, the linguistic, what we say, right? Our linguistics are our words, and that happens both verbally and non-verbally. However, today we're going to focus on the verbal. And then our programming is what we do. It's what we've been conditioned to do over time. So NLP is the study of what we think, what we say, and then what we do. It's a method of influencing brain behavior which is that neural part, the language, and it enables the person to recode the way the brain responds to stimuli. That's the programming, and manifest new and different behaviors and outcome. So all of that is a very fancy way to say your behavior is habitual. We can change that habitual behavior. So there's been research that supports that the language that you speak and I speak largely affects, well, and may even determine the way we actually experience the world, from the way you perceive what's happening to the way you sift through all you're experiencing, to the way you think, and then you ultimately to the way you react to it. Your language is literally creating your world. Now, if that's true, which it appears to be, wouldn't it also mean that language can create an impact on the people in our presence? And can't our language impact their outcome too? Everybody nod your head. Of course it can. Of course it can. So here's something to keep in mind. Language is primarily unconsciously driven, which means people speak without giving much thought to the words they're using. Now, you're probably thinking, is that true? It is. People's words are habitual. Their vocabulary is therefore habitual. Now, have you ever noticed that certain people will use certain phrases a lot? I mean, for instance, I have a very dear friend who habitually says right after everything. Now, is he really looking for a positive affirmation after every sentence? No, of course not. It's because it's an unconsciously driven habit, right? So these thoughts are habitual, and the words that live in our minds, well, they're what we call an internal representation. Internal representations are going to be important to what we talk about today because they actually create emotion in ourselves and in the people we're talking to. And as you use language, you create an internal representation in the listener's mind. Now, important things to remember when dealing with or learning about internal representations are an internal representation creates a state, which is how someone feels. And then that feeling actually triggers a physiological reflex, which is the way the body responds to it, and then a behavior is created. So remember, our mind, part of our body, and then that behavior is created. So take a moment and think about how the things you say to yourself and the things you say to others can have a bigger effect on you than you might think. Offhanded comments, even well-intentioned ones, can be harmful to others and yourself because of the things we say can affect how we view the world and how we ultimately view ourselves. The things we say to others affect how they see themselves, the world, and themselves. Now, remember this too. People will never forget how we make them feel, which means you have influence on them and you have influence on you too. Yes, everyone has influence. Now, are your words creating a positive influence or are they creating a negative influence? Maybe it depends on the person, or maybe it depends on the circumstances. For instance, I have some influence, well, when talking about language patterns and what we're discussing here today. However, I don't really have any influence when it would talking about car mechanics or gourmet cooking or anything else like that. So consider this. Best-selling author John Maxwell states in his book, Becoming a Person of Influence, influence doesn't come instantaneously, it grows in stages. I'll repeat that for you. Influence doesn't come to us instantaneously, it grows in stages. Now, how many of you are realizing right now that you do have influence? That's awesome, because congrats on being here, because it means you're committing to your next stage. Who you are and your ability to powerfully use language transforms the experience of the people who are in your presence. And the fact that you can transform one's experience through your being and language and your words clearly illustrates what an opportunity you have in front of you. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to take a look at 10 common phrases that people use. And while we count down the list, it might be a good thing for you, it's your choice, to complete an internal assessment as to if any of these pertain to you. If you might hear yourself saying these when I say them, is it like, ooh, I say that too. Now, whether they are your habitual language or whether you desire to make a change, pay attention and let's see what we can do here today. So number 10, I'm an idiot. I'm so dumb. I can't do anything right. Ouch. I have to be honest, it hurts me to even say those. You get the picture. Respected author Dr. Deepak Chopra tells us that our cells are constantly eavesdropping on our internal dialogue. Your internal dialogue, well, that's the voice inside your head. It takes place in the unconscious mind. So whether it's a negative thought or a positive thought, your body is going to react accordingly. Would you tell your best friend they're an idiot? Would you look at a young, impressionable child and call him or her dumb? Or would you look at struggling to accomplish something and say, you can't do anything right? Probably not. And that's because we don't want to make the other person in that conversation feel bad, let alone perpetuate the thought and create this vision for themselves. Yet people will have this dialogue with themselves all the time. Say something to yourself often enough, well, and you're going to begin to believe it. It doesn't matter if you say it out loud or you're only saying it in your head. So the next time you're tempted to do this, instead of tearing yourself down, build yourself up with some encouraging words like, what could I do differently next time? Or even better, what can I learn from this? And when you believe something, it changes your behavior. So give yourself some grace, well, and some encouragement. Number 9, nobody appreciates me. Nobody appreciates me. Really? No one? How could you possibly know that? Consider you have you have no idea whatsoever how many people do or don't appreciate you or love you. And yet people will always presume the worst. Now, perhaps that thinking comes from not taking the time to be grateful for yourself or for the things you do or for the people you touch. Know this. Know that you are loved and appreciated, and tell yourself so on a regular basis, right? If you're not willing to tell yourself, how is anybody else going to do that? So tell yourself that on a daily basis, on a regular basis. Reflect on your accomplishments, however big or small they are, and practice self-appreciation and self-love through affirmations. In bold, we actually recommend that you journal gratitude every single day. My suggestion would be, before you go to bed at night, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. 3 things that you're grateful for. And then close the book on gratitude. My guess is you'll probably sleep a lot better. And then in the morning, when that alarm goes off and you know that you're ready to get out of bed, open up that gratitude journal and review the 3 things you were grateful for the night before. It's going to start you off in a great mental place. Maybe even set some affirmations for the day or some intentions for the day and write 3 things that you're already grateful for that you're going to manifest that day. So gratitude journaling, especially for yourself, very important. Very important. Here's number 8. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Now, you heard me just say that. And I know that the collective energy on this call shifted because of that. Asking someone what's wrong with you, quite frankly, it's an insult. It is. At its core, it implies that the other person is flawed in some way. And that would be us sitting in judgment. So when you ask yourself a question, your brain's going to attempt to answer it. So when you ask yourself or someone else that question, well, you're probably not going to get a positive outcome. Instead, consider this. Substitute a question that brings a positive solution or a positive feeling. Something like if you're tempted to say, oh, what's wrong with you? Ask this, how can I support you? How can I support you? Supporting someone allows them to actually step into their power and actually will help them achieve a positive solution. Now, notice something. I didn't say, how can I help you? There's a difference between help and support. Support is the person that you're going to stand on the sidelines, you're going to encourage, you're going to support them. Help means I'm going to get down and dirty and I'm going to do it with you. So be careful of choosing which word you want depending on who the person is. And remember this, instead of asking yourself, oh, what's wrong with you? Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Or what can I do differently next time? Or boy, how can I help myself in this situation? You're going to do the same. You're going to be able to reprogram yourself to a more positive outcome because of that. Here's number 7. Number 7. Now, it's really hard for me to say this without whining. I'm too old. I'm too young. Well, you may be in certain circumstances. I mean, in certain situations, those limitations could hold true. Someone might be too young to drive or to vote, right? Or they might be too old to play high school tennis, right? Can't, be 50 years old and go back and play high school. However, it's rare that you're actually too old or too young to do anything that you truly, truly desire to do. Now, in most cases, age is almost always an artificial limitation. You might want to write that down. Age is, as an excuse, is an artificial limitation. Now, understand this too. I'm clearly not saying that it might not have been easier to do something 20 years ago, right? I mean, when I learned to golf at the age of 25, I was kicking myself going, why didn't I learn when all my friends were going when they were younger, right? I wanted to swim in the pool, wanted to lay by the pool, swim in the pool. I didn't want to learn to golf in the hot sun. And yet when I learned at 25, I thought, ooh, it would have been good to learn when I was younger. So remember that. Know this. Harder doesn't mean impossible. That's another thing you want to write down. Harder doesn't mean it's impossible. In most cases, it doesn't even mean it's improbable. It's about what you really desire, and it's really about the purpose behind that desire. Because I know you, like I, have all heard the stories of the 70-year-old who graduates from college, or the 80-year-old who runs their very first marathon, or the 12-year-old who, I saw this article a couple of weeks ago, learned to fly a plane. Now, I'm not saying I want a 12-year-old pilot. Good for them. Not saying that I want to be the person as the passenger. However, they're not leaning into those limitations. These individuals all had a purpose or desire to do something, and they understood that age didn't matter. In fact, CNBC posted an article in November of 2018 that said, according to TD Ameritrade, 73% of the women that they surveyed said that 70 was now the new 50. I mean, I don't know about you. I was pretty excited about that. How many of us just gained another 20 years to our perceived lifespan, right? If 70 is the new 50. So again, it might have been easier to do something 20 years ago. Remember this though, the only limitations to most of us with regard to age are the ones that you're putting on yourself. So let's look at phrase number 6. You can't do it. You can't do that. Now, saying that to anyone else has a negative result. It certainly doesn't make you more likable in their eyes. Saying it to yourself, well, quite frankly, it can be devastating. It can be devastating. I mean, once you tell yourself you can't do something, your internal being, your unconscious mind, it begins to work to actually make that true, to make it true. And remember, if our vocabulary is habitual and you tell yourself you can't do something, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, congratulations, you are actually creating that outcome. So consider when someone tells us we can't do something, it's because they don't believe we can do it. They don't believe we can do it. Question that belief. There's a famous, very famous Henry Ford quote that emphasizes the role that attitude actually plays in determining our success or our failure. And it's this quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, unquote. When you say, I can't do it to yourself, well, ask yourself this. Is it because you really think you can't? Or is it because doing it is not really something you want to do? Many, many times we don't want to put in the effort and we use our habitual language of I can't to portray that. Once you have clarity on your desire, well, make the choice that's in alignment with it, because once you tell yourself you can't do something, you most certainly won't. And you won't do it successfully. So if you decide to go for it, if you decide I'm going to eliminate the phrase, I can't do it, or you can't do it from your vocabulary, you might want to ask yourself this question. It may be tough, and I believe I can do it. Or I believe I can do it. Or the work will be worth the accomplishment. The work I have to put in will be worth the accomplishment. So that brings us to kind of a cousin of that one. This one, only I can do it. Now, I can tell you as a coach who coaches a lot of high-end, upper-end rainmakers with large teams, I hear this a lot. Only I can do it. And my question is, what? What? Is that true? I mean, come on. Only you can do it? I mean, we all know the answer. Put the answer in the box. Can only you do it? No, Genie in with for the win with the first one. No, everybody, no, exactly. I love it. It's BS. No, that is absolutely not true. You know it's not. And yet so many of us tell ourselves that constantly. Only I can do it. Ugh, only I can do it. It's the cousin too. If you want something done right, yeah, I'll just do it myself. I'll just do it myself, right? Well, congratulations. If you believe that, then you get to own it. And everything that goes with that statement. Consider this though. There is someone who can do it better, or maybe let's start here. Maybe there is someone who can do it just as good as you, or perhaps even better. In fact, there are probably many people who can. I mean, take a moment right now and think of a time where you thought, no, only I can do it, and you let go. And you actually either hired it out, or you let someone else do it, and they did a better job than you. They did a better job than you would have. I'll be honest with you. I did this with my team a couple of years ago. It was my team for years. It was the second time I'd launched a team. I had sold the first one, and I had the agent who I had been training, brought her in. She's now running my team. Guess what? The year I stepped 100% out of production, they doubled their business. Clearly, someone could do it better than me. Someone could do it better than me. So think about this. Consider that if there is someone who can do it as good as you, or maybe even better, if they can, if there's someone who can say it about you, and I really want you to listen to this question. If they can do it better than you, what does that say about you? Here's the answer. Nothing. Doesn't say anything about you. It doesn't say anything about you. Humans have a need for significance and they want to feel important. Consider by allowing, and we get that importance by saying, oh, I'm the only one that can do it. I'm so important. It's the subtext. Consider that by allowing someone else to do the task, you're building them up and you're actually helping them to feel important. Zig Ziglar is credited for saying, you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough people get what they want. Significance is a basic human need, the need to feel important. And when you help others feel significant or important, you'll feel the same, knowing that you actually played a part in their success and in that feeling. So instead of saying, only I can do it, ask yourself, who else could do it? And who else would feel really good if I asked them to do this? And then let it go. Channel your inner Elsa from Frozen. Let it go, and let them do it. In the end, you'll feel better. So let's look at number 4. Well, I think you should. Okay, so I just have one thing to say. You're not the boss of me. I can hear, my brother saying, I think you should, or telling me what to do, right? Stop shooting on people, including yourself. Giving advice when it isn't requested, well, is generally a very poor idea. Not good at all. Now, unless someone asks you what you think, just keep your opinions to yourself. If you think you should do something, well, that means that inherently there's a part of you that doesn't agree with doing it. Think about that. If you tell yourself, well, I really should do blank, there's a part of you that doesn't agree with doing it, or it might mean also that you're not aware of the purpose for doing it, or that you don't understand what the benefit is. What is it actually going to get you when you do it? So when you talk to yourself, instead of shooting on yourself, ask yourself this: if the decision you're about to make is going to move you closer to or further away from what you desire. Is the decision I'm about to make going to move me closer to or further away from what I desire? For instance, if instead of saying, now this may hit a nerve for some of you, and I'm not telling you can't do this. So instead of saying, well, I really shouldn't eat all those Christmas cookies, which would make you feel like you're missing out on something. Well, I shouldn't do it because there's a part of you that is like, you really want to do it though. You want to eat the Christmas cookies, right? You might want to ask yourself something like, those cookies look good. And if I eat that dozen cookies, will I be closer to my goal of maintaining my current weight through the holidays? Or will it be harder at the gym next week? Now, you know the answer. You know the answer to that. So come from an empowered place. So instead of saying you should, ask yourself or the person, how does it align with what they desire or what you desire? And then again, make the empowered choice. Now, if you want to eat the cookies, eat the cookies. You just got to live with what eating the cookies means, right? So number three in our countdown of 10 phrases to eliminate right now. What will people think? Oh, this is perhaps one of the most limiting thoughts that a human being can have. What will people think? It might be among the most common as well. And while it's common to worry about the opinions of others, it's absolutely unnecessary and it's limiting. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, do you really desire to build a life around the imagined opinions of others? Think about that. When you ask yourself, what will people think? You're just imagining, you're creating a story of what their opinion of you is going to be. Now, as a MAPS mastery coach and a bold coach, I hear this a lot. And it's this phrase: I don't want to call people I know because they'll be mad at me. Now, I may or may not be talking to some of you on here. I mean, maybe not, or maybe you have a friend who thinks that. You don't want to call through your sphere, your database. The thing that Gary Keller says is the most important thing we should be doing right now, or we could be doing right now. Didn't mean to should on you right there. That we could be doing right now. And you might be saying that to yourself, or maybe your friend is saying that to themselves. Or let's consider this, maybe your thought is they'll be mad at me, or maybe they'll ask why I never called them before. Well, how come you haven't called me for the past 3 years? Or they'll ask, what do you want? Or they'll think I'm trying to sell them something. You're going to try and sell me a house, aren't you? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I'm sure as I was saying those, in your mind, you're going, she's nuts. That's ridiculous. Right? Now, pay close attention here, as I'm about to tell you something very, very, very important. The reality is, most people could care less what you're doing. Sorry to have to tell you this. They're not thinking about you. Sorry. They're not sitting around saying, oh, I wonder why Paul never calls me. He was my realtor, but he never calls me. No, they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about the hundreds, if not thousands of other things that impact their lives on a daily basis. If you're worried about what they think, know this: you literally have the opportunity to craft a message around what they think about you. Make a care call. Hi, I just wondered how you were. I wanted to wish you happy holidays. Wondered if you're still enjoying your house. Now, what are they going to think about you? They're going to think, what an idiot. They haven't called me for 3 years. No, they're going to say, that was really nice. The message they're crafting is one of niceness, of humanity. So make a care call. Show up as the financial advisor, right? The financial professional. Ask them what questions they might have about the market. Ask them what if they might want an analysis on their house, or just ask questions what questions that they might have with regard to the real estate market, because there's a lot of bad information out there, isn't there? And you can ask, how can I serve you in the coming year? And who else do you know that I might be able to serve? You can literally craft a message to get them to think about you the way you want them to. Get them to think about you in a positive light. So instead of asking, what will people think? Create the dialogue. Create the way that you want to be known for them. So number two, it's too hard. It's too hard. Now, telling yourself that something is too hard, well, as you were probably already figuring out from what we've talked about here before already, it's going to make you believe that, well, it's too hard. And when you believe that something is too hard, guess what? You won't even attempt it. You won't even attempt it. I mean, running a marathon is hard, right? I can only imagine. It's never been something I've desired. And yet, play with me here. Running a marathon would be hard. Don't you agree? Now, and most people don't wake up one day and say, well, today I'm going to go run a marathon, like right now today, and then like put their flip-flops on and go do it. Right? No, that's not what happens. They make a decision based on some level of desire, importance, or significance, like we talked about, and then they make the decision to go get the right shoes and start to train and maybe even hire a coach, which is just another way of saying that they're getting the appropriate equipment and they're going to follow a strategic plan, right? They get the right tools, a coach to help them, and they follow a strategic plan. Now, consider this. Everything is hard until you've done it enough to say that it's no longer hard, that it's no longer difficult. So how about telling yourself this? This is a challenge I haven't mastered yet. And then diving into the plan and getting the equipment and getting the systems and getting a coach. And think about that. What would you accomplish if you eliminated it's too hard? Dig deep into what the desire behind it is, and it'll reframe everything. Now, this brings us to number 1. And I believe that this is the most disempowering things that we can actually say to ourselves. So I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna ask you guys to put in the chat box what you think the number 1 most disempowering phrase is. Go ahead and put it in the chat box. I should quit. I can't. Not good enough. I can't. Well, some of these they've already had. I can't. I don't deserve it. Right? I'm too busy. I won't succeed anyway. I give up. Yep. These are all fantastic. Oh my gosh. I'm not worthy. Right? I'm not worthy is underlying in all of these. Ooh, tomorrow. That's one word that packs a punch, right? Not good enough. Not good enough. Right? All right. So here it is. It's too late. Others are better than me, right? These are some of those are variations of what we talked about. Here it is. Here it is. Are you ready? Drum roll. Boom. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Talk about habitual language. OMG. I mean, your brain gets overwhelmed and confused, and your automatic response is, I don't know. I just don't know. The reality is you do know. And for some reason, your unconscious mind spits that phrase out. Now, imagine asking someone a question and the answer that you get is, I don't know. And you ask another, well, I don't know. And then you ask a different question and the answer again is, I don't know. How incredibly frustrating would that be for you? Everybody nod your head. Very, right? Very frustrating. Now consider this, that you do know, and that the unconscious mind, its job is to keep us safe. And that sorting through an answer or solution might be mentally painful or taxing or exhausting or just plain work. So I don't know, our habitual vocabulary, our habitual words of I don't know is actually a deflection to avoid the real answer. And it actually shuts down possibility. It shuts down possibility. So whenever you're tempted to answer, I don't know, consider telling yourself this instead. That's an interesting question. Let me think about it. Because you have the answers and your unconscious is just shooting it down, saying, I don't want to go there right now. And if you're really stuck, here's a great exercise that you can do. Think of the situation and write down what you don't want. Because most of us, if we say, what do you want? Well, I don't know. Well, what don't you want? We can spit out a list of all kinds of stuff we don't want. And then after you get your list of what you don't want, write down the possible opposite answers of that. Now, remember, there can be more than one opposite for a don't. And you'll have a list that you can then verbally sort through, and you'll get clarity and gain knowledge. And what's really great about that is when you have that list, and this is great when you're looking to solve a bigger issue, right? When you have that list, read it out loud, because it takes it from your unconscious mind and it puts it out, and you're hearing it, and your brain processes it in a different way. So give that exercise a go. Just imagine how much more empowered you'd feel instead of saying, I don't know. Because I don't know plants you in a place of stagnancy, in a place of immovability. So speaking of feeling empowered, I trust that each of you noted a few places where you can make conscious changes to your personal habitual vocabulary. And I'd like to acknowledge you for your desire to work on yourself through your participation in today's call. Who you are and your ability to powerfully use language transforms the experience of the people that are in your present. And as we learned today, that transformation begins with you. Now, understand this. There are plenty of things that seem reasonable to say. And as you learn today, they can ultimately cause more harm than good. The words we say, well, the words you say have the power to impact lives, whether it's other people's or your own. I'm going to ask you to choose your words carefully and make the choice to empower yourself and make life easier for you and everyone around you. So I'm Kara Moll. I'm a MAPS coach. It's been an honor and a privilege to spend time with you today. Happy holidays. Go start talking to yourself in a positive, empowered way. Thanks for being here, everyone. Happy holidays.